Doctor Who is dead, and it is not Ncuti Gatwa's fault. That is my hypothesis for this video. Now, this has been making the rounds on the YouTubes recently. Was this article from The Sun titled "Exterminate: Doctor Who Facing Axe as Lead Star Ncuti Gatwa Quits Amid Woeful Rating and Fans' Fury at Woke Storylines." Now, I need to put this into perspective for non-British viewers. You probably have no idea what The Sun is. Okay, you're probably thinking it's some credible source. No, The Sun is a British tabloid. Okay, The Sun is the British version of the National Enquirer. If you're familiar with the National Enquirer, it's a tabloid. So, again, take it with a grain of salt. But it would not surprise me if Ncuti Gatwa was going to exit after his second season, because the producers behind Doctor Who have made it very, very clear that a third series with Ncuti Gatwa was not going to be announced until after the second series was released. Now, the second series has yet to be released as of the recording and uploading of this video. But if you're looking at it from Ncuti Gatwa's perspective, irregardless of how you're perceived as the Doctor, why are you going to hold out and wait to see if the show is even going to come back for a third series, right? There's an old adage: hope in one hand, shit in the other. See which one fills faster. So allegedly, he has all these offers. He has all these offers from Los Angeles, and that's why he's going to leave. Again, take The Sun with a grain of salt. As I said before, hope in one hand, shit in the other. See which one fills faster. Now, the reason I'm saying that Doctor Who is dying, it's not because of the Ncuti Gatwa era. It is not the return of Russel T Davies. It wasn't even the Timeless Children. The Timeless Children was just the final nail in the coffin. The decline started during the Peter Capaldi era. If everyone is being honest, it's been a slow decline, and that's because of the change in showrunners. Okay, Russel T Davies famously left Doctor Who in 2010. That was, I believe, after the David Tennant specials, the first set of David Tennant specials. There was no official fourth series with David Tennant's Doctor. It was, I believe, it was a series of 5 specials that ended with the 2-part special, The End of Time, that guest starred Timothy Dalton, and that was the regeneration into Matt Smith. Stephen Moffat took over after Russel T Davies. Now again, the Matt Smith era of Doctor Who continued David Tennant in the sense that it balanced between the super serious side of the Doctor along with the more playful side. But then you get to Peter Capaldi, and Peter Capaldi, there was such a massive tonal shift, and not only was there a shift in tone, but the writing seemed to be going downhill. Everyone pretty much agrees that Peter Capaldi, while he was not the worst actor to portray the Doctor, his storylines were so bad that most people actually don't look back on his run as the Doctor fondly. Again, very, very similar to Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. A lot of people liked Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, but the only Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie that was ever well received was GoldenEye. Tomorrow Never Dies was largely forgotten, which is kind of a shame because Tomorrow Never Dies was actually pretty good. The World Is Not Enough, not the greatest James Bond movie on the planet, and Die Another Day was universally despised, even though me personally, I actually really like Die Another Day for what it is. I will acknowledge that I am in the minority in on that front. So after the Stephen Moffat era, you then had Chris Chibnall take over, and Chris Chibnall took over when Jodie Whittaker came on and took over the role of the Doctor. And very famously, Jodie Whittaker had no idea what Doctor Who even was, and actually had to phone up David Tennant, who worked with her on a series called Broadchurch, And so what you had was Jodie Whittaker was effectively doing an impression of David Tennant, but still the writing continued and its perpetual decline in the Chris Chibnall era. So again, the decline has been painfully slow for the last decade. Like I said, when The Timeless Children came out and and altered the backstory of the Doctor, that was the final nail in the coffin, but it wasn't the one thing that killed Doctor Who. It's just The Timeless Children was the final straw that broke the camel's back. And then Russell T Davies came back and said, yeah, we're not going to retcon The Timeless Children. We're just going to roll with the punches, because if you're coming at it from a returning showrunner's perspective, it's a really, really bad idea to decanonize all of your predecessors' work. Look what happened with The Rise of Skywalker when they were trying to walk back everything that was done in The Last Jedi. All that move accomplished was that it pissed everyone off, and everyone says that Rise of Skywalker was the worst Star Wars movie ever made, because that's the one that tried to appease everybody. It tried to appease the people that hated The Last Jedi while simultaneously appeasing the people that loved The Last Jedi. You were never gonna do that. So again, Russell T Davies refusing to retcon The Timeless Children also did not kill Doctor Who, because it's a bad idea to go back and decanonize your predecessor's work. And personally, I think the biggest thing that killed Doctor Who is the fact that the streaming rights, at least here in the United States, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, Doctor Who is actually split between two streaming services. Doctor Who from the Christopher Eccleston era, that from 2005 up through the end of the Jodie Whittaker era, is all on HBO Max, or sorry, it's always going to be HBO Max to me. I'm referring to the streaming service Max. I hate that name. To me, like I said, it's always going to be HBO Max. Okay, so the Doctor Who from 2005 up through the end of Jodie Whittaker is all on HBO Max, whereas the 60th anniversary specials and the Ncuti Gatwa era is all on Disney Plus. So if you're a new audience member going into the 60th anniversary specials, starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate returning, the Doctor and Donna returning, you are a new viewer of Doctor Who. You fire up Disney Plus, you watch the very first episode with the Doctor and Donna. First thing that you're going to question is, what is so special about the Doctor and Donna? You haven't watched one episode of Doctor Who prior to this, and you would have a point. It's, what is so special about the Doctor and Donna? You never saw those episodes. You have no connection. And then what they managed to do by the end of the 60th anniversary special is that they also pissed off the longtime fans by doing this bi-generation, which we could also argue completely kneecapped Ncuti Gatwa's era of Doctor Who before it even began, because David Tennant's Doctor did not fully regenerate into Ncuti Gatwa. Instead, David Tennant's Doctor is still around, and Ncuti Gatwa spun off from David Tennant's Doctor, which both sides, to be fair, hated the bi-generation, but for completely different reasons. But I will agree that all the bi-generation accomplished is it kneecapped Ncuti Gatwa, because it basically, slow down. It basically signaled that Disney and the BBC and or Russell T Davies had no faith in Ncuti Gatwa's Ncuti Gatwa's portrayal of the Doctor, and so therefore, if the ratings continue on a decline, they can artificially bring David Tennant back to theoretically, quote unquote, save the franchise again. And you can't ignore that the ratings for Ncuti Gatwa's era of Doctor Who have not been great. The first two episodes of the first season, this coming from GBN, I'm trying to find it within the article. Okay, here we go. In fact, the overnight ratings for the BBC One premiere on Saturday night consisted of an underwhelming 2.6 million and 2.4 million viewers per installment of the doubleheader. They released the first two episodes on the same day, according to TV Zone. It is worth noting that these figures do not take into account streaming figures on iPlayer. That's the BBC. That's over in the UK. on which the episodes were released prior to their broadcast on BBC One on Saturday evening. And many people are like, that's because TV audiences have changed. The way the audiences watch television has changed. But if you look at the ratings for the most recent Christmas special, that was Joy to the World, that came out 2024. That's Ncuti Gatwa's second Christmas special. It was beat out by the finale of Gavin and Stacey. That's a British sitcom that starred James Corden and Ruth Jones. The Gavin and Stacey finale that released on the same day as Doctor Who Joy to the World drew in 12.32 million viewers. The new Wallace and Gromit movie, Vengeance Most Foul, released on BBC One before it released on Netflix and the rest of the world. That drew in 9.38 million viewers the night it premiered. And I believe Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, came out after Doctor Who Joy to the World. Doctor Who Joy to the World only drew in an audience of 4.11 million viewers when it premiered on BBC One. EastEnders, a long-running British soap opera, beat Doctor Who Joy to the World by drawing in 4.39 million viewers. So again, you can't argue that the ratings are in a perpetual decline, and Doctor Who as a show now is arguably more expensive to produce than it was even in the 80s, back when Doctor Who was originally going into a decline. Basically, the ratings for a show like Doctor Who, with how expensive it is to produce, just isn't enough to justify the production cost. So again, is Doctor Who facing the axe? Like, according to The Sun, is Doctor Who facing the axe? I wouldn't be surprised if Doctor Who goes away for a few years. In my opinion, Doctor Who is way too big of an institution to go away completely, but I think we're going to see a hiatus at least for a few years, and it will come back in some way, in some way, shape, or form. Again, in my opinion, Doctor Who is way too big an institution to just go away completely. But in my opinion, as well, with everything that came out of the 60th anniversary specials leading into the Ncuti Gatwa era, in my opinion, Disney, the BBC, Russell T Davies, or any combination of the three did the Ncuti Gatwa era dirty.